the western part of Lancaster County, down by the Susquehanna River, there lies the tiny town of Rowenna. In the town, there is Old River Road. On that road, you can find the 2-century-old burial grounds that have been almost forgotten. What makes it stand out above all other graveyards? Is it the unique masonry stone construction? Or that there is no gate, no way of getting in without jumping over its wall? Or maybe it's about the cursed tale behind it. Hans Graf, a Swiss Mennonite, bearing the title of Baron von Welden, traveled to the colonies to seek a new life in Germantown, Pennsylvania, and eventually warranting 1,419 acres in Lancaster and moving to what is now known as Grafdale, where he lived until 1746. He is commonly known as one of the first settlers of Lancaster County. During his time alive, it is said that he built this cemetery. Many know the site as Hans Graf Graveyard, or Shock Burial, due to it being near what is known as Shock's Mill. Being a small cemetery with only a 60 by 40 foot area, with the engraving on the front reading, "Within this God's acre rest the descendants of Hans Graf," with only 31 gravestones, some being illegible, knocked over, or some broken, set off to the side. So what made this a hot spot for local legends in the recent years? Some of the legends have to do with phantom canines, ghost wolves, and photographs of orbs while visiting the grounds. One legend states that some of Graf's descendants buried in the cemetery were accused of being werewolves and shot at that very spot under the night of a full moon. None of the documents found say which descendants of Hans Graf were the ones shot, so it remains to speculation whether the story is true or a myth. Yet being a story set to give the cemetery more life than death. Another legend to this tale is that Hans Graf himself was either bit, killed, or was a werewolf himself because of a curse that was on that land. It's said that he stalks the gravesite in the form of a white wolf, watching all that comes to visit the grounds, in order to keep his relatives safe. Some say if you're lucky, you can find him walking amongst the tombstones at night, most likely during a full moon when paranormal energy is at its peak. One of the strange occurrences that happens there when jumping over the 4-foot wall, you will hear the phantom howl of the white wolf, along with other dogs barking. Whether these are phantom canines or just neighborhood dogs, one thing is for sure, they know you're there. Another tale someone wrote from an old, now no longer online, StrangeuSA.com forum stated in 2013. Me and several of my friends witnessed the shadows. After being creeped out by that, we heard growling and barking. We looked down the road and saw a man-sized wolf on its hind legs charging at us. We ran to our car, which was already started, and sped off. Rudin 187, May 15th, 2013. Although Graf's descendants lay here and his spirit haunts it, he's actually not amongst the graves. He's actually buried in Grafdale in Leola, Lancaster County, at Grafdale Mennonite Brick Church, even having the title as the first settler on his gravestone. But Hans died in 1746, 51 years prior to the first grave at Hans Graf Cemetery, which that was Christian Gish, who died in 1797 at the age of 21. The curse goes as is. If you circle the perimeter on top of the wall 7 times upon a full moon, you will not survive the night. But as of now, there is one survivor of that curse.
I've been fascinated by this place for quite a while and the stories about it. And I guess that night I was in a mood, you know, maybe a little bit wild and off-kilter type of mood. And I knew it was a full moon. And I was out driving and I figured, you know, it would be a fascinating experience just to see what it felt like to actually be out here doing it. And then if something should actually happen, you know, if, let's say something mundane, like I died in a car accident or something that night, people afterwards would just be like, was it really? Was it the curse? You know, and then the story of my life would become kind of permanently intertwined with the ghost legends of this place, and I almost thought it was worth, you know, the risk just to kind of bring the story to life in some way. Definitely was in a pretty intense headspace during that time. My eyes have always been my night vision's always been a little bit strange, so it's not infrequent that I kind of imagine I'm seeing things, or things get hazy, or, you know, I was thinking a lot about the white wolf legend. Some have claimed that there's a white wolf that haunts the place, and I kept almost imagining that I was seeing a white orb beginning to materialize in place. I don't say that I actually saw it, because you know, the way I see things naturally is a bit on the weird and psychedelic side, but I definitely was kind of growing in intensity as I approached the 7th lap, just the feeling I had. Although I obviously thought there was a pretty good chance I'd survive, or I might not have tried it, there was definitely a part of me that was fully cognizant of the possibilities there. And I love the legend about it, because it, you know, whatever, I feel like even saying the word true in relation to a story like this is really problematic, because, you know, all stories depend on the participation of our minds in them. So, you know, whether your mind is bringing something to the table, or whether the place itself is bringing something, who's to draw that line, and where do we even draw it? So I feel like just the existence of a story like that about a place like this lends it this kind of power and beauty that just really draws me. I'm always looking for these areas that have a lot of story behind them. I'm still not certain that I'm not going to be killed by a white wolf someday. You know, maybe the spirit was just off duty that night, and now that I've returned, it's going to attach itself to my soul and follow me home.
The story also inspired Leo to make a song about the story that has impacted his life.
Seven come 11, the gamblers say, praying for a 7 to fall. 7 don't bring winning lucky your way when it's 7 times around the wall. 7 times around, when the moon is full around the graveyard wall. 7 times, 7 times around, when the moon is full and you won't make it to daybreak alive. Down by the end of the old river road, round holes the family grave. Everyone who lives on the river knows when the moon is full you keep off. 7 times around, when the moon is full, illuminating ominous eyes. When you hear the howl of a dread white wolf, you know you're never gonna see the sunrise. Times around, when the moon is full around the graveyard wall. 7 times, 7 times around, when the moon is full and you won't make it to daybreak alive. Go 7 times around, when the moon is full and you won't make it to daybreak alive.